الحمد لله رب العالمين الحمد لله رب العالمين والعاقبة للمتقين ولا عدوان إلا على الظالمين وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له الملك الحق المبين وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله سيد ولد آدم أجمعين صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وصحبه الطيبين الطاهرين على مر الأيام والليالي والشهور والسنين أما بعد. As we continue in the explanation of Hamawiyyah by the great Imam Taqiyuddin Ahmad ibn Abdul Halim ibn Abdul Salam ibn Taymiyyah, the one who died 728 after the migration of our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But this night, or this evening, of Thursday, July the 29th, 2021, the time now 7:44 p.m., which agrees in the Islamic calendar we're still in the blessed month of Dhul Hijjah, where today is on Dhul Hijjah the 19th, the year 1442, after the migration of our Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. As we continue, Ya Ma'ashar Ikhwah, we stopped at the lines concerning Abu Hamzah Razzaq, or rather him confessing his confusion towards the end of his life due to busying himself with the knowledge of rhetoric, meaning the knowledge of philosophy and logic. How all those affairs were regretful, and how all of those scholars of rhetoric and those theologians all confess and displayed their severe remorse and regret for busying themselves with these affairs, which ultimately led to ilhad. It ultimately led to atheism and the denial of Allah Ta'ala's existence and confusion. For those affairs, inshallah, so like I said, we'll study all the different refutations, especially for those who busy themselves with this knowledge. And like we said, the consequences of one busying themselves with rhetoric or busying themselves with this type of science or knowledge, for better words, is that we said it ultimately leads one down the road of atheism. And that's why you'll find that the majority of them had doubt concerning Allah's existence, and you'll find in different lines and statements of them showing this fact. We were speaking about the lines, if we were talking about what Shaykh al-Islam, we're almost to the end of the Muqaddimah, if everyone will look. We're almost towards the end of the introduction. Because all of these different types of statements that we've been reviewing, all of them is considered from the introduction of the book that Shaykh al-Islam inaugurated his book with, bringing statements of those theologians, meaning scholars of rhetoric and logic, and their regret, which is to let us know that the affairs of logic, or those affairs of rhetoric, is not from our religion. Rather, it's something that's foreign and it was newly introduced. Rather, it was something that was in opposition against the religion and against the revelation that was sent down by Allah Ta'ala to the messengers, all of them, collectively, the messages of the prophets. And that you cannot combine Iman with Kufr. You cannot combine revelation with disbelief and merge them together. Rather, what came as a result of it, like we said, was nothing but confusion. You'll find in the lines as it says, ثُمَّ هَؤُلَاءِ الْمُتَكَلِّمُونَ الْمُخَالِفُونَ لِلشَّرْعِ أو لِلسَّلَفِ عفوا. He said, then these people who are Ashab al-Kalam, if you look at your books, the people of rhetoric, those who are in opposition to the Salaf, if they were thoroughly investigated, you will find that they have nothing of true knowledge of Allah and sincere knowledge of Him, any type of what? Any type of khabar. Nothing from the truth, nothing from the revelation, nothing from the book of Allah, nothing from the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. And all of this was considered khabar. If you want to read for me, Muhammad. Just read it for me, real quick. Just read this on the mic so everybody can keep up.
Moreover, these logicians who oppose the Salaf, if they were investigating...
Does it say logicians or does it say theologians?
Logicians.
What is that? Logicians. Go ahead.
If they were investigated and tested, you will not find with them any true knowledge of Allah, factual awareness of Him. They cannot comprehend it if it was in front of them, nor will they realize it after it has passed them. So how can these blinded, deficient, reckless, confused latecomers be more knowledgeable about Allah and His names and attributes, and be more precise concerning His verses, His essence, than the foremost to embrace Islam, from the Muhajirin and the Ansar and those who follow them in goodness, from the heads of the prophets and the successors of the messengers, the signposts of guidance and the guiding lamps through darkness, those who recited, implemented, and spread the book, i.e. the Quran. Because of it, they were granted aid and victory. Those whom the book spoke of in praise, and they spoke with the book. Those whom Allah granted knowledge, wisdom, to the extent that they stood out over the rest of the followers of the prophets. Let alone the rest of the nations who have no book. They possess the most sound, deep, and precise knowledge, to the point if the philosophers of every nation besides them were gathered next to theirs, one would be shy to attempt to make a comparison. Furthermore, how can the best of generations, i.e. the Salaf, be less in knowledge and wisdom than these youth in comparison to them, especially relating to knowledge of Allah and the rulings regarding His verses and names? And how can the descendants of the philosophers and the followers of the people of Hind and the Greeks and the heirs from the Magians and the polytheists and the misguided Jews, Christians, and the Sabians, and those similar to them, be more knowledgeable than the heirs of the prophets and the people of the Quran and Iman. Hence, I begin with this introduction, because the one who has it firmly established will know where true guidance lies in the subject and other than it. Just as one will know that misguidance and confusion only prevail over many of the latecomers, due to them tossing the book of Allah behind their back and turning away from the clear evidences and guidance that Allah sent down to Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Also, them leaving off searching for the path of the early predecessors and the Tabi'in, and instead seeking knowledge also them leaving off searching for the path of the early predecessors and the Tabi'in, and instead seeking knowledge of Allah from those who did not know Him based upon their own acknowledgement, the testimony of the Ummah, and countless other proofs. Furthermore, my objective is not to discuss one person in particular. However, I will give descriptions of each accordingly.
Let's start at the beginning. So then these people who are Ashab al-Kalam, if you look in your books, it says ثم هؤلاء المتكلمون المخالفون للسلف إذا حقق عليهم الأمر لم يوجد عندهم من حقيقة العلم. These people who busy themselves with rhetoric, meaning logic. Notice the Shaykh al-Islam said in opposition for the Salaf, meaning there was not an affair in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent down upon His Messenger alayhi salatu wasalam, and it was not an affair you'll find that any of the companions busied themselves with. They never busied themselves with the speech of the Greek philosophers. That was something that was, like we said, foreign, something that was newly introduced. It was not an affair in which Allah sent down upon not only upon our Messenger alayhi salatu wasalam, nor the prophets from before. Philosophical ideologies was nothing that none of the prophets and the messengers busied themselves with. That was an affair that was sent down as revelation for rectification of mankind. There was something newly introduced by Greek philosophers, who in their origin were all what? Either polytheists, and their ideologies, some of them led them down the road of atheism. So you'll find that these are the type of atrocities that they were upon. Either polytheists, and everyone knows Greek philosophy and what it contains of the pollutants of polytheism, how they were deeply engrossed in it. Of all the different deities they believed in, that each type of element in this world, there was a God that governed it, or there was a God that what? Dictated or disposed of its affairs, whether it be of so-called love, or whether it be of so-called rain, or whether it be of so-called evil or good, there was a God for it. So everyone knows that the Greeks, how they were deeply engrossed in polytheism, of something that was very gross and grotesque, to the point, like we said, that would be enough for a Muslim to reject where those ideas come from, due to the fact of the reality of those people and what they were upon. Was enough filth for one to what? Avoid and not to adopt any of their ideas or concepts or beliefs. But however, it happened. Some of the Muslims, especially what happened to Khalifa al-Ma'mun, as we discussed before, who is from the Khulafa al-Abbasiyah, and now started to adopt those ideologies and introduce them into the religion, until logic or Greek philosophy started to creep in with the Muslims, and they started adopting it and trying to merge it with revelation. So we said, Ya Ma'ashar al-Ikhwa, in reality, as you'll find the Shaykh al-Islam in this tremendous or beneficial muqaddimah, in this beneficial introduction, he said that these people who were affected by these concepts or Greek philosophy or Greek concepts of the Greek philosophers, he said these ideologies which were in opposition to the Salaf, meaning the Sahaba. He said the groups that he was speaking about, he's talking about who we were speaking about for the past month now, those groups such as the Jahmiyyah, the Mu'tazila, the Asha'ira, and the Maturidiyah. All of them were affected by Greek philosophy. Those people who you say that Allah is not above the heavens, you find that Muslims to this day, you see the effects of this still upon the belief of the Muslims. If you'll find that people will come to you and say that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not above, know for sure when they say that or they utter that statement, that's from the concepts of Greek philosophers. So to this day, you'll find that Greek philosophy and these type of ideologies has affected the Muslims, due to the fact that you'll find there are Muslims out there that do not believe that Allah is above the heavens, due to the Greek philosophy that has affected their belief and corrupted it. So we said, in regards to these type of sects, notice Shaykh al-Islam says, إِذَا حُقِّقَ عَلَيْهِمُ الْأَمْرِ, if they were thoroughly investigated, these groups, who are they again? The Jahmiyyah, the Mu'tazila, the Asha'ira, and who? The Maturidiyah. If they were thoroughly investigated, you will find that they do not have anything of the affairs, meaning the important vital affairs that every Muslim has to believe. Now I said this in the class previously, such as al-matalib al-ilahiyah, wal-nubuwat wal-shu'un al-ma'ad. The important and vital matters, that the most sacred of affairs in our religion, such as the affairs pertaining to what they call al-matalib al-ilahiyah, the affairs concerning Allah. As far as in those categories that we know of al-rububiyyah, wal-uluhiyyah, wal-asma wal-sifat, those affairs are called al-matalib al-ilahiyah. The affairs, or if you want to say, al-ilahiyah, or the divine affairs, meaning the affairs connected with our Lord Ta'ala Himself. So those affairs, if you was to investigate these groups, they do not have any true knowledge of the matalib al-ilahiyah, nor the affairs of nubuwat, or the affairs concerning prophethood, or the shu'un al-ma'ad, or the affairs pertaining to the unseen, especially the affairs concerning the hereafter. They have nothing of knowledge concerning these affairs whatsoever. He said, you will find that they what? لَمْ يُوجَدْ عِنْدَهُمْ مِنْ حَقِيقَةِ الْعِلْمِ بِاللَّهِ. You will not find with them where they possess true knowledge of Allah at all. nor anything of pure knowledge where they have substantial correct evidence that they're working by. Because the true knowledge is what everyone, what is in Kitab and Sunnah, not based upon philosophical rhetoric and the likes of that. So you'll find that it mentions, it goes on to say, the Shaykh al-Islam says, you'll find that they have no type of true knowledge. Not in the affairs of Matalib al-Ilahiyah, nor in the affairs of Nubuwat, nor in the affairs of Shu'un al-Ma'ad, or if you want to call it al-Ghaybiyat, the affairs concerning the unseen. Because all those affairs, the day of resurrection, the belief in the angels, the belief in the shayateen or the belief in the jinn, and what's coming of the life in the grave, all those affairs are considered, like we said, al-Ghaybiyat, the affairs of the unseen, that is hidden from our eye, where we firmly believe in them. These people who are so-called theologians or philosophical theologians do not have any true knowledge. They try to rationalize everything, but they do not believe concerning the affairs that are hidden or are hidden from our eyes, except that there's a rational explanation to what? To justify it. For those affairs you'll find that they mention, they did not now stop at anything, meaning in regards to the Kitab and Sunnah, what they rely upon, they have nothing. Not nothing small or anything what? Big. So Shaykh al-Islam basically is saying that they're all ignorant. Well, these type of people who he's speaking about, they're ignorant, juhal. That's why you'll find that Shaykh al-Islam had mentioned in other sources, you'll find that Shaykh al-Islam Taymiyyah, that he said, of course when he was debating with them, when he debated them, and they insisted upon to remain in this error, or this mistakes that they were upon, he mentioned and said to them, if I was in your place, I would have judged upon myself with disbelief. However, they're ignorant. So he was not quick to now make takfir on a lot of their followers. He said he did not deny them or remove them from the fold of Islam, meaning from the followers, due to this reason specifically, which is that they were what? Ignorant. However, notice he said, if I was in your place, because Shaykh al-Islam had what? Ilm. He had knowledge. He could not use the excuse of what? Ignorance. He was fully aware of what they're upon and where the misguidance stemmed from. He was fully aware of it, had knowledge of it. That's why he said this statement. لو كنت مكانكم لحكمت على نفسي بالكفر ولكنهم جهال. If I was in your place, I would have judged upon myself with disbelief. However, they are what? They are ignorant. However, you'll find that Shaykh al-Islam Taymiyyah, the knowledge of what they possess, like we said, was not from Kitab and Sunnah, which is the true knowledge that removes oneself from the state of ignorance. The knowledge that descended from the heavens, the wahy. That revelation, that is what now gives true knowledge to one until they become leaders and those who are prominent. And those at the head of them were the Sahaba. They had that knowledge, and that's why Allah Ta'ala praised them in His book, because of the knowledge they possess. And not only because of the sound knowledge they possess, but because of their application of it and them firmly holding on to it. That's what made them prominent. That's what made them leaders. That's what made them and earned them the praise that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave them in His book. And what the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam also gave them as praise. The reason why anyone is prominent and a leader with the Muslims is because of the ilm they possess. Stop painting with your fingers. Focus. Just go and paint your nails. It's good manners. So those type of affairs, that's what makes everyone or anyone praiseworthy. For those وما قاله السادة الأولون الذين أخذوا العلم من في رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم الصحابة. For those who are the prominent, the first, in which took knowledge directly from the mouth of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they are the companions. For verily the knowledge they possess was true knowledge, and that knowledge that does not have in it, Allah said, and His Messenger said, and the Sahaba said, that is not true knowledge. If it's void of what we just said, قال الله, قال رسول الله, قال الصحابة, ليس بعلم. For one that is void of Allah said and His Messenger said and the Sahaba, is not knowledge. Rather it's just mere what? Just hikayat wa tharafara. It's just mere what? Just one just babbling and running off at the mouth. But if it's not those affairs, what we just mentioned, then like we just said, it's not true knowledge, especially if it's concerning so-called something of the affairs of what they want to worship Allah and draw close to Him by. The only way that one truly is considered the one who has ilm, the one who has memorized the book or understands the book and the sunnah which Allah gives to certain individuals. Notice that Shaykh al-Islam, he goes on to say, فَكَيْفَ يَكُونُ هَؤُلَاء الْمَحْجُوبُونَ. Now notice what he goes on to say in his book, if you look. He called them mahjubun, meaning that they've been blocked from true knowledge. Blocked from having true light. Light that will enlighten the heart. And it will also enlighten the people. How is it that he said those have been blocked? Blocked from what? Due to the testification of some of the statements that we already mentioned from those so-called theologians who even admitted that they regretted and how they were in a state of confusion and bewilderment due to them busying themselves with logic. So they've been blocked from what? True guidance. And blocked from what? Light. Anything of any knowledge that one studies and the ultimate result is doubt and confusion and regret is a knowledge that is what? Harmful. And that's what you'll find, the statements that we already mentioned from who we just mentioned, who was Fakhr Razi, Shahrastani, and Abu al-Ma'ali al-Juwayni, and Abu Hamid al-Ghazali, which all are mentioned in the book that we just already covered in the last lessons. So notice that Shaykh al-Islam had described them as being what they call what everyone? Mahjubun, being blocked or hindered from what? From light and from true guidance. Notice that he called them mahjubun. Then he called them al-manqusun, those who are deficient. Why? Because the Salaf, of course, were complete in their knowledge, while these people were what? Greatly, if not, reached the highest form of deficiency. Because, like we said, it's not book called Allah. It's not from the book of Allah, nor from the authentic sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So, anyone that attains this type of characteristic, then their knowledge, without any shadow of a doubt, is considered what? Greatly deficient. Rather, it's reached the highest of deficiency and incompleteness. So notice that Shaykh al-Islam called them what? Al-Mahjubun, Al-Manqusun. If you look at your books, Al-Manqusun, Al-Masbuqun. Those who have been what? Those who have been preceded. Meaning, preceded by those who are well grounded in knowledge, who are the Salaf. Preceded them to every good. So notice that Shaykh al-Islam called them whatever you want if you look at your books. Mahjubun, Manqusun, Masbuqun. Al-Hayara. Al-Hayara, meaning from the word Hayra. As the word Hayra in the Arabic language means to be in a state of confusion. Meaning to one that's in a state of confusion. Or a state where they're in a state of bewilderment. Just absolute confusion. So Al-Hayara, and we already just covered the statement of Fakhr Razi, where he said in that poetry, whatever you want, that he said that we were in a state of loneliness, as it says in the poetry. Where he said in that poetry we already covered a couple of moments ago, or a couple of lessons ago, نهاية الإقدام العقول عقال وأكثر سعي العالمين ضلال وأرواحنا في وحشة من جسومنا وغاية دنيانا أذى ووبال ولم نستفد من بحثنا طول عمرنا سوى أن جمعنا فيه قيل وقالوا. Notice that he said, Fakhr Razi even testified for himself that he was confused. Where he said, our souls within ourselves is in a state of loneliness. So this was a testification for themselves that they were what? Confused. An absolute state of confusion. Though he says, as I already mentioned, we don't need to go over it again. But at any rate, the word is Shaykh al-Islam, if you look at your books, he said, Al-Mahjubun, Al-Manqusun, Al-Masbuqun, Al-Hayara, Al-Mutahawwikun. What's the word mutahawwik? Al-Mutahawwikun or Al-Mutahawwirun. All of them are correct. You'll find that they say the word tahawwuk or tahawwur is bravery that's misplaced. Misplaced bravery. Meaning bravery for falsehood. Be brave for falsehood. So this type of bravery is what, everyone? Is misplaced. Anything that is, of course we know that is misplaced, was not in its proper place, is dispraiseworthy. It's condemned. Anything that has been misplaced is condemned. And is dispraiseworthy. We know bravery. Bravery is a characteristic that is praiseworthy. Bravery generally. However, if it's put into proper place, then it's called tahawwur or tahawwuk. It's not called bravery. One having the nerve or the gall to oppose Allah Ta'ala and oppose His book and the authentic sunnah by distortions or improper meanings or negations, all of that is not called bravery. That's called tahawwuk or tahawwur. Bravery that's been misplaced is called, like we mentioned, tahawwurun or tahawwukun, as we just mentioned. How can these people be a'lama billah? So these people who Shaykh al-Islam called them, blocked from true knowledge, deficient, they already been preceded to all good, in a state of bewilderment, misplaced bravery, meaning them having the gall to oppose the Kitab and Sunnah, and to oppose it and be against it. And then he mentioned and said, these type of people who attain these type of characteristics that are dispraiseworthy, how can they be more knowledgeable about Allah? They had no knowledge, nothing to stand on. The ultimate result of it was confusion and disbelief and atheism concerning Allah's existence. How are these people considered knowledgeable? Especially more knowledgeable about Allah and His name and His attributes, and they are more sound in the affairs concerning His verses and the affairs concerning Allah's characteristic and His essence than those who are the sabiqun al-awwalun, those who are from the first and foremost, who are the Sahaba. The affair can never be like that, because you'll find, like we mentioned and said, they attain prominence in the religion where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala changed societies, and you've seen the effects of them holding on to what was correct of revelation. You'll find that prominence was achieved and was carried out and actualized. In contrast to these people, you'll find that where they were, the societies became in a state of chaos and destruction. Any society that adopted philosophy, liberalism, and the likes, all became societies that were doomed to failure, without any exception. The only societies that you'll find that were successful and attained high status of prominence of those who held on to the revelation of that which the prophets and the messengers were upon. So it's no doubt that these people, and like we just mentioned and said, what the Sahaba are the most knowledgeable, more knowledgeable than them. Why? Because like we mentioned and said, they are the one who achieved and attained true prominence, in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made the effects of their hard work and diligence, made it become the uppermost, and had the most great and most positive effect on society in general. In contrast to those who busied themselves with denial of Allah's existence, and there's no one that has attained this type of status except you'll find in their societies is a society of chaos, and a society of murder, mayhem, mass hysteria, and people who are unhappy due to the adoption of these type of ideologies, without any exception. That's the reason why he mentioned in the book what we just mentioned it now. He said, how can these people be more knowledgeable about Allah and His name and attributes وأحكم في باب آياته وذاته من السابقين الأولين. And that they are more sound. And they are more secure in all of these affairs. Meaning affairs concerning Allah's verses. And his affairs concerning Allah's essence. Yarhamakallah. Than the Sahaba. Yusuf, he's outside? Yusuf, Shaykh Yusuf, he's we have to call you there. But, so we mentioned this said, if you go and just look everyone, those who are the Muhajirin wal Ansar, and those who follow them with perfection, ولو تأخر بهم الزمن كل من تبع السلف فهم من المتتبع. Oh, there you go. Abdul Wali, can you call the other?
Yeah. Came in already?
Yeah, I think it just came in. It's in? It's in? You there? I'll talk.
Wait.
How?
We got 5 minutes.
You have 5 minutes? Seriously? All right, just wait 5 minutes then. Just wait 5 minutes.
I got it.
Alhamdulillah. طيب. So those who follow the Sahaba and those who follow them with perfection, they also attain the same characteristic. Meaning no matter how distant or remote the time or the time frame is, anybody who follows the Sahaba with perfection also attains these praiseworthy qualities. You are more knowledgeable than those who are upon misguidance from the philosophers. And these type of theologians, you are more knowledgeable of them, and you have attained praiseworthy traits, just as what happened with the companions of the Message of Allah. Why? Because one is following them with perfection. So also one attains the same type of what? Praiseworthy qualities and traits. Even if one's number is small. Even if you're just one individual that hang on, or that one hangs on to the truth in some type of remote distance place, then you still have what? These high qualities and traits which have been mentioned in this text where Shaykh al-Islam says. So he's saying, how can they be more knowledgeable than the Muhajirin and the Ansar, those who followed them with perfection? And also from the inheritors of the prophets, who are the scholars and who are the successors of the messengers. As we know that the ulama are the inheritors of the prophets. What did the prophets leave as inheritance, as we know everyone? They left what? They left knowledge. Those who inherited, they are the successors of the messengers, due to them adopting that knowledge and that inheritance and that estate, that tarika. And like we just said, its origin emanated from where? From above the heavens, which is the revelation. Let's read clearly, or let's read all in one sequence exactly what Shaykh al-Islam mentions. So he said, how do these people who are people of rhetoric in opposition to the Salaf, if it's thoroughly investigated? Number one, he's speaking about all those deviant sects, in which we mentioned and said, the start of them who are the Jahmiyyah, the Mu'tazila, and the Asha'ira and the Maturidiyah. And we also mentioned and said that the beginning of these sects all started with a non-Muslim. Started with a kafir who was from the Yahud. And we said that the start of Greek philosophy that was introduced in our religion started with the Jahmiyyah. Of course, they were the first group. However, as we talked about, the founder of that particular sect, his name was what everyone? Labid ibn al-A'sam. Labid ibn al-A'sam, as we mentioned this before. Labid ibn al-A'sam did magic upon the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So the founder of this group, or the founder of this particular sect from the Jahmiyyah, this is their isnad. This is their chain. So their chain is black, starting with a non-Muslim who was the originator or the founder of it. That's the reason why you'll find that these deviant sects were not given success. Rather, they were the reasons of why darkness was put upon or crept in the ranks of the Muslims. However, Allah Ta'ala saved our religion and preserved it by the ulama and those who possess true knowledge to defend it and ward off these type of blackness or darkness and evils. What's the problem?
Somebody, one of the young ones that decided the phone was inside the book.
It's okay. Follow. They stopped you already. He's in the process of doing it. طيب هو saying انقطع حبل أفكاري نسيت الموضع الذي وقفت عليه شو؟ I forgot what I was saying.
No, he's talking about since.
Yeah. So the chain of the Jahamiyyah, like we said, was black. Started with the fount. Allah. Like we just mentioned, it said the affairs concerning the Jahmiyyah, their isnad, their inheritance, are from A'lam al-Yunan. They're from the scholars of Greece. So people who come with the rhetoric or the statements such as Allah not being above the heavens, or now Allah not having any names or attributes, or rather Allah, it does not mean hand, rather it means something else. They inherited this knowledge from the Greek philosophers. Those are their inheritors, or those are the ones who they inherited from, Whereas those who firm had held steadfast upon what was correct, they attained their inheritance, rather they inherited from the best of creation, who are the prophets. For the people who say that Allah is above the heavens, and that Allah has a hand that befits Him, and it does not resemble the hand of the creation, they are those who attain the greatest of all knowledge because they took their understanding directly from the prophets and messengers. And those are the ones who have inherited true guidance. He says you'll find that the A'lam al-Huda, that the scholars of proper guidance, in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guided by them the servants, meaning the people. وَمَصَابِيحِ الدُّجَى, and they are the lanterns of light, meaning that they gave light to the dunya. They gave light to this world with the knowledge, with the light of knowledge. If you look in your books, it says they are A'lam al-Huda. They are the scholars of proper guidance. They are the Masabih al-Duja. He said that those who follow the prophets, meaning the prophets and the messengers themselves, and the companions and the messenger of Allah, along with those three great generations, and those who follow them with perfection, and to this very moment, in this day that we're in now, those who hold on, remaining steadfast, clinging to their proper guidance and knowledge, similar to them, they attain all of this status. Because there's nowhere from the people of monotheism, the people of Sunnah, except they give light to the darknesses that we are covered by. So those are truly the people who are what? Masabih duja. They are the lantern, or the lights and the lanterns that have enlightened the world after it's been covered of layers of darkness, of what we see today. Notice that Shaykh al-Islam Taymiyyah, he says, Alladina bihim qam al-kitab. If you look at your books, he says, in which the book had what? How allowed them to be risen by. What does he mean by that? Qam al-kitab bihim. That the book allowed them to rise. What does that mean? Now listen to this. كيف قام بهم الكتاب, meaning the Quran, the book of Allah, in which they recited, as it ought to be, or as it ought to be recited, meaning not only recital of it, but them following it. They recited it, they followed it, they took the affairs of their religion, returned it back to it in order for it to be the judge. They sufficed with it, and they did not put behind themselves that book. Rather, anything that opposed it, that's what they put behind themselves. For that's the meaning you'll find that they said, Qama bihimul kitab, meaning that they allowed the book to what? To make them rise. Meaning that the people of them reciting it, and not only reciting it, properly understanding it and following it, and letting it be the judge in their affairs, and them sufficing with it. As a result of it, you'll find, as we said, they became prominent and successful and dominant. They recited the book, they learned it, they applied it, they used it as a judge in their matters, and they informed it to the people. That's what the meaning of Shaykh al-Islam, if you look in your book, Qama bihimul kitab. Qama al-kitabu bihim. That the book had allowed them to rise. This was the meaning of it. Notice that Shaykh al-Islam said, وَبِهِ قَامُوا, meaning that they stood up and became victorious because of the Quran. They became victorious, dominant, because of the book of Allah. And them holding on to what's correct and applying what is in it. For those who are the great scholars of the religion, like we said, who followed the proper guidance, at the head of them is the prophets, the messengers, and their disciples, and then came the Sahaba. Then the Sahaba and those who followed them with perfection. All of them are considered A'lam al-Huda. From those scholars who followed them, of course, holding on to their guidance, are considered signposts, if you want to say, signposts and being signs of proper guidance, enlightening this world after it's been covered with layers of darkness of the times we live in now. Those in which the book allowed them to rise, meaning by them applying it and reciting it and following it, and letting the book of Allah be the judge in all of their affairs, them sufficing with it and not seeking guidance of other that which is in the book of Allah and the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. By now branching off to democracy, or branching off to liberalism, or branching off to communism, or to masonry, or being a mason. All of those affairs all oppose the guidance of the prophets and the messengers. For them holding on to that, you'll find that the book, like we said, allows them to rise. And notice Shaykh al-Islam said, وَبِهِ قَامُوا. He said, by the book they rose. Meaning, the book of them being steadfast to what is in it of proper guidance. Notice what happened. Meaning, because of them holding on to that, they became dominant and prominent and victorious. Doesn't everyone want prominence and dominance and victorious? Not only just for the Muslims, but for society as a whole. They want the darkness and corruption to be removed. They do not just want it for the Muslims, but they want guidance for everyone. And these are the affairs that will make what? Make the affair become prominent and dominant. For your find, ya ma'ashal ikhwah, those who truly remain firm upon the book, from any community they are, it remains steadfast, holding firm to this guidance, until you'll find that there was no country that was established similar to what we see today, in which you'll find that all the arrows of the shayateen are pointing towards, which is the land that is left that holds onto the Kitab and Sunnah, which has not been affected by outside influences and corruption from the different civilizations that have adopted foreign evil concepts. And that, if you notice that all the shayateen are pointing their arrows at is the Dawlat al-Saudiya. There's not no country in this world except that they're all trying to take down Saudi Arabia. Because that's the only light that's left that the shaitan has not devoured. Every other land you'll find have their portion, whether it be of a lot or a little, of where the outside corruptive influences have crept in, of democracy, of liberalism, and communism, and the likes, which is all darkness, all of it. All of it is darkness, and all of it is concepts of the devils, of the shayateen. We're not talking about white people, we're talking about the unseen devil, the shaitan himself, who has inspired these type of ideologies. And you'll find that every land has its portion of corruption, whether it be of abundance or whether it be moderate. But the point of the matter is, there's major corruption going on in all those societies. But the only country that has now survived, that is left, like we said, you'll find that everyone is pointing their arrows at is the Dawlat al-Saudiya. Why? Because of them remaining steadfast, holding on to the Book of Allah and the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, even though it's at a time where holding on to it is like holding on to hot coals, as it comes in authentic narration. That there will come a time where what? Al-Qabidu ala dinihi kal-Qabid ala al-Jamr. As the Messenger of Allah ﷺ said, that there will be a time that one holding on to his religion will be like holding on to hot coals. Meaning that they will what? Holding on to something that is true and firm and that will get you through the darkness and will now allow you to attain prominence not only in this world but in the grave. And on the day of resurrection, that light and that survival technique, if you want to say, that holding on to that will be like holding on to something that's extremely hot. And that's what you see today. For verily these affairs you'll find of those who claim or clung, or those who were clinging to this affair, you'll find when they did that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allowed a land to be established in the name, which is from the inheritance of the prophets and the messengers, and in the name of Tawheed, in which you'll never find that anything was similar to it. Why? Because of them holding on to the Quran and the proper guidance until they reached this extent, in which you'll find that a whole land was established based upon it, and in which the book, meaning the Quran and the proper guidance that was sent down, allowed it to be established, and it gave them that prominence. In which you'll find that there's no country like you'll find in these days, that which they're trying to take down more than, like we said, of Saudi Arabia. Whether it be from the non-Muslims, or whether it be from the Shia and the Rawafid who are around them in different lands, or whether it be from the Muslims who accuse them of hypocrisy, as you have heard it from many foreigners, of how much they hate Saudi Arabia. Even the Muslims. To let you know that the shaitan wants the light, what is the beacon for the people of Tawheed and Sunnah, to be taken down. Because that's what's left. So no doubt when you hear a person says how those scholars in Saudi Arabia are hypocrites, and how they allow this to be in the land, and how they allow such and such now to come in, and the likes of that, why Saudi Arabia so much? Why? Did it ever come in your mind why? Because Shaitan knows that's the light of Tawheed that's left in the land, in the world. They know that's what's left. وَفِي قَرْيَةٍ, and you'll find that they reach the level of those who establish or hold on to the book, in which you'll find, like we said, what was established was an affair in which the Messenger of Allah ﷺ mentioned in the authentic hadith, was said, فِي قَرْيَةٍ تَأْكُلُ الْقُرَى, that the revelation will come, and there will be a village in a small qarya, a small village. It will establish this light, this revelation, and it will devour the other villages. And the Message of Allah, this particular narration was talking about Al-Medina. He wasn't talking about Mecca. He was talking about Al-Medina. Even though Mecca is part of that, no doubt. But he was talking specifically in this context here, everyone. He was talking about Al-Medina. He said there were what? This city, which is based upon it, established a land where nothing will have preceded it. Any other land. Of establishing this light and this truth. Establishing it in this city, which the Message of Allah said in authentic narration. He said, "Umirtu bi qaryatin ta'kulul qura." I've been commanded to reside in a village that will devour every other village. Devouring all the other villages by dominating it, and its power and its authority will be established upon other villages. And which you mentioned, what we said, which was the Al-Sima, in which the capital, and which was the dominant village over all other ones, as far as in its prominence, in which the Message of Allah started and established. Then after that, he took back Mecca, which was its conquest. But the power originated for the strength of the Muslims in Al-Medina. When the Message of Allah sallallahu Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave that power to the Message of Allah after the prerequisites and the foundations were established, and that the iman of the Muslims became extremely strong, reaching a very high, lofty extent, to where Allah Ta'ala allowed that power to rise to the point where they were also able to now take back Mecca and that conquest. However, it originated from that particular village, just one small village, which comprised of dirt and certain other places, and which was known as a place where there was a lot or abundance of date palm trees. That it expanded to the point where it started taking down superpowers in the dunya, as they call it. From them was, like we said, Persia and Rome, which is equivalent to these days of China and Russia, was taken down by a small village that had consisted of dirt and date palm trees. What made them give them that power? Except that they hold on to the Kitab and Sunnah and the Madhab al-Sahaba. That's what gave them power. And anybody that holds on to that will attain the same prominence. That's why you see the Salafiyah is flourishing. All the other calls have died. Where are they? Where are they right now? All of them have failed. Done. The only people surviving is the people who traverse the path of the Salaf. That's it. Everyone else has failed. Why? Because they were seeking dunya. Allah stopped the dunya at one time by what happened with the Ja'ihatul Corona, by the Waba Corona. But you'll find when the coronavirus is spreaded, the dunya stopped. And when they stopped, when the dunya stopped and the money stopped, they stopped. Because that's what they want. However, Ahlul Sunnah with Tawheed continue. Why? Because what they were seeking is the reward with Allah Ta'ala. And they love the knowledge and they love the proper guidance. That's the reason why they continue. While all the other calls failed. Because once the world and the dunya stop, they stop. But once the dunya now maybe goes again, here they come. To let you know what's their goal. Ultimately, it's dunya. However, the people of the Sunnah continue in their efforts, regardless of their circumstances. So you'll find that this affair, which was established in the Dawla of Tawheed, the city or the country, the land of monotheism, and like we talked about, its power had expanded. It became prominent or became dominant, where its ministry became in the inside and the outside, or interior or exterior, and in its economy. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you'll find in that particular time, also they gave them strength in their economy and gave them strength as far as on their teaching. Because nothing that we teach or we disseminate of knowledge, except you'll find that it emanates and goes back to that particular land. For how many people have now journeyed off from the different lands there are outside of Saudi Arabia, and the majority of the people who are upon Salafiyah, who are truly calling to this knowledge, had some type of influence from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia today, whether it be directly or indirectly, whether they studied there or had now study from their books or from the ulama who originated, such as Shaykh Muhammad Abdur Razzaq. So it originated and that light emanated from them, either directly or indirectly. Either from its students who studied and graduated there, or from their books that were copied and spread throughout the dunya. And it was circulated from the different societies, but however it originated from there. All of these affairs are what we're speaking about now. And this will be the result if all of us cling to the Kitab and the Sunnah. And you'll find that they will be able to what? Bring the people from out of darkness into the light. That's what we see today. In which you'll find that people who are sacrificing al-ghali wal-nafis, everything which is valuable and everything that is very expensive, putting forth what they can in order to sacrifice for the religion of Allah Ta'ala. So you'll find that Shaykh al-Islam mentioned this in his book. He said, قَامَ الَّذِينَ بِهِمْ قَامَ الْكِتَابِ. He said, by them, meaning the book, had what? Allowed them to rise. And we said that the meaning of that is because of them remaining steadfast, clinging to the book of Allah. Focus. Clinging to the book of Allah. Reciting it and returning their affairs back to it. Allowing the book of Allah to judge in their affairs. Not allowing their emotions to override what comes in the ruling of Allah and His Messenger. Know for sure when one does that, they would now play the part in bringing aid in restoring the prominence and dominance back to the Muslims. However, when you abandon that and now seek guidance in other than that, that is the reason for disgrace, and that is the reason for what? Humiliation that will descend from Allah Ta'ala. If a person now wants to hold on to their street reputation, or they want to now continue wars within the street between such and such street and such street. Or I want to hold on to my nationality because I feel that my people are better than so-and-so people. Or that white is better than black. Or that black is better than white. Or that this person is from Africa is better than that person because I'm from this country and they're from that country. And the likes of that, they have now fell into something that's in total opposition to the Kitab and Sunnah. And it plays a part in what? Humiliation from Allah Ta'ala descending upon those people. Why? Because no one is prominent in our religion except those who held on to Kitab and Sunnah. There's no one else that will be prominent and successful unless they actualize that objective. The moment they abandon that, the moment Allah Ta'ala humiliates them. So that's what we mentioned this said if you look in your books, everyone. It says, قَامَ بِهِ كَتْبِ قَامَ بِهِمُ الْكِتَابِ وَبِهِ قَامَ بِهِمُ الْكِتَابِ الَّذِينَ بِهِمْ قَامَ الْكِتَابِ وَبِهِ قَامُوا وَبِهِ قَامُوا بِهِ قَامُوا, meaning that they became successful because of the book of Allah. Notice the Shaykh al-Islam, he goes on to say, وَبِهِمْ نَطَقَ الْكِتَابِ. He said, meaning them, that the book recited concerning them. What is that speaking about, everyone? The book, what is recited in the book concerning them. Meaning about the Sahaba. As it comes in the ayah, Muhammad Rasulullah, وَالَّذِينَ مَعَهُ أَشِدَّاءُ عَلَى الْكُفَّارِ رُحَمَاءُ بَيْنَهُمْ تَرَاهُمْ رُكَّعًا سُجَّدًا يَبْتَغُونَ فَضْلًا مِنَ اللَّهِ وَرِضْوَانًا سِيمَاهُمْ فِي وُجُودِهِمْ مِنْ أَثَرِ السُّجُودِ ذَلِكَ مَثَلُهُمْ فِي التَّوْرَاةِ وَمَثَلُهُمْ فِي الْإِنْجِيلِ كَزَرْعٍ أَخْرَجَ شَطْأَهُ فآزره فاستغلظ فاستوى على سوقه يعجب الزراع ليغيظ بهم الكفار. To the end of the ayah. Well, Allah Ta'ala says in this book, speaking about meaning the Sahaba, talking about the best of people, Muhammad is the messenger of Allah. And those who are with him are stern against the disbelievers and they are merciful amongst themselves. To the end of the ayah. So that's the meaning of what Shaykh al-Islam said, that the book spoke about them, or spoke concerning them. وَبِهِمْ نَطَقَ الْكِتَابِ. The book spoke concerning them. وَبِهِ نَطَقُوا. And they, and I think it's clear and evident we're self-explaining to it here, وَبِهِ نَطَقُوا. He said for them, they recited it itself, meaning the book. I think that's self-explanatory. Is it clear? In which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave them knowledge and wisdom. Now listen to what he says. وَالَّذِينَ وَهَبَهُمُ اللَّهُ مِنَ الْعِلْمِ وَالْحِكْمَةِ مَا بَرَزُوا بِهِ عَلَى سَائِرِ أَتْبَاعِ الْأَنْبِيَاءِ مِنَ الْيَهُودِ وَالنَّصَارَى أَتْبَاعُ أَنْبِيَاءِ بَنِي إِسْرَائِيل. He said in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala granted them knowledge and wisdom, in which they stood out by it over the rest of the followers of the prophets. What's he speaking about? Speaking about the Jews and the Christians, the followers of the prophets from Bani Israel. So they have a virtue over them for the rest of the ummah, the rest of the nations. Especially those who do not have any book, such as the Magians and the people of philosophy, or the people who are Greek philosophers, and those who are from Greece, in which they had now entered upon the Muslims, like we said, philosophy and logic, in which they corrupted upon the Muslims, or corrupted upon their people, their own people first, their belief, and then their corruption spread and crept within the ranks of the Muslims. وَأَحَاطُوا مِنْ حَقَائِقِ الْمَعَارِفِ وَبَوَاطِنِ الْحَقَائِقِ بِمَا لَوْ جُمِعَتْ حِكْمَةُ غَيْرِهِمْ إِلَيْهَا لَاسْتَحْيَا مَنْ يَطْلُبُ الْمُقَابَلَةِ. He said, in which you'll find, and he continues to praise them, of course. He said, this is what you'll find, as Shaykh al-Islam says in the last part, we'll stop here. If you look at your books, everyone, هذه العبارة أو العبارتان حقائق المعارف وبواطن الحقائق. Notice that Shaykh al-Islam said, he said, and those who encompass the true realities of al-ma'arif, knowledge, وبواطن الحقائق, and the inside realities. And this is what I want to explain. Shaykh al-Islam said, بواطن الحقائق, or حقائق المعارف, the true realities of knowledge and the inside realities. What is he speaking about here? He's speaking about here, and I want everyone to comprehend what I'm about to say, this particular statement. He's saying that what is intended here is al-ulum al-daqiqa al-khafiyya. He said that the intricate affairs of the religion, that only people who know it are those who are well grounded in knowledge. Meaning those who have knowledge, knowledge that they attain in order to speak about those intricate hidden matters in which those who are less in knowledge do not know about, nor can they speak about it. So that's what he's speaking about here in this particular context. You guys write this down, you're just looking at me being entertained. Write it down. I'm going to just sit here and other people just be like this. So what is intended, what Shaykh al-Islam said, this last part, he said, حَقَائِقِ الْمَعَارِفِ. He said, those knowledge of the religion that are intricate, very intricate and tedious, in which the knowledge concerning it are hidden from those who are not well grounded in knowledge. So Shaykh al-Islam is not saying, as a person might say, well, he's saying like how the Sufis say that there's an outward knowledge and there's an inward knowledge. No. Those are the people what they call Batiniyah. But those who say that they have the true knowledge that is inward, while the common folk has the true knowledge that's outward, where the people from their so-called scholars have reached a level where they have the true knowledge that is inward. Or or those who say, for example, that the text of the Kitab and Sunnah have a apparent meaning and has a hidden meaning to it. They also say that. He's not talking about that here. Shaykh al-Islam is talking about those ulama that are well grounded in knowledge, that those intricate, tedious affairs, they have knowledge concerning it, in contrast to the people who don't have knowledge. That's what he's saying. Is it clear, everyone? وحقيقة خلاف الشريعة كما هو أسلوب المتصوف. We already talked about that. ليس هذا مراد الشيخ. So that is the affairs that he's speaking about. He's speaking about those who are well-grounded, deep-rooted in knowledge. That's why you'll find the other on the authority of the great Sahabi, Tarjuman al-Quran, Abdullah bin Abbas. He said, لِأَنَّ مِن تَفْسِيرِ الْقُرْآنِ, you'll find that he mentioned and said about those ayahs, especially Surah Al-Imran, that he said from the tafsir al-Quran, from the explanation of the Quran or the commentary of the Quran, that no one has knowledge of it except those who are well-grounded in knowledge in it. They can't speak about it except that those who have knowledge concerning it. It says, and from that is giving, for example, the tafsir al-Quran of what the Arab know from the Arabic language, or giving the commentary of the Quran of what no one, of course everyone would know what it means when they hear it, of course. He said, but however, what we're saying and mentioning here, we have to understand what the meaning of it is not what we said of what is the meaning was intended upon the people of Sufiya. However, we're talking about the affairs concerning those intricate ones. Not the affairs concerning, for example, the Sufis that say that it breaks down into two categories, where the common folk follow the Sharia and the scholars follow the Haqiqah. That the common folk follow the legislative part, and the scholars only follow the true reality of it. Those are the affairs about the Sufis, what they say that the religion breaks down into those two categories, which is absolute nonsense. Then you'll have those who say that there's a apparent meaning and there's a hidden meaning. That's not what Shaykh al-Islam is speaking about. Is it clear, everyone? But we'll read this last part and we'll stop because this is the last part of the introduction. You'll find that Shaykh al-Islam kind of repeats here, just to put emphasis. You'll find that Al-Ilm say that this particular repetition is acceptable in this context here. Just to put a little emphasis, we'll read it and we'll stop. He says, ثم كيف يكون خير قرون الأمة أنقص في العلم والحكمة لا سيما العلم بالله وأحكام آياته وأسمائه من هؤلاء الأصاغر بالنسبة إليهم. He said, then how can these people who are the best generation or the best generation of this world, of this nation, are deficient in knowledge and wisdom, especially knowledge of Allah Ta'ala and the rulings of His verses and His names and attributes, then these people who are considered al-asaghir. The word asaghir, we know that it has a lot of meanings. Asaghir can mean the people of bid'ah. Asaghir can mean people who are ignorant. Asaghir can also mean people who are also from the young ones. That can mean it also. Yes, it can. It means all of those. Asaghir can mean what? The people of innovation, the people of misguidance. Asaghir can also mean people who are what? Who are ignorant. People who don't have any knowledge. Asaghir can also mean from those who are what? Who are youth. Meaning when we say youth, everyone, meaning you'll find that Ahl-Ilm give praise usually to the seniors because as they get older, their desire for the dunya becomes less. Rather in contrast to the youth, usually, not in all cases, but usually, they still have somewhat, they're still a little brash. They haven't become totally molded yet. And there's still their desires and their youth and their struggle, of course, of them not wanting the dunya is still what? Still kind of there. But people, as you get older and older and you wise, you realize how less this world is and how less in value it is. Especially those who mature truly realize the low value of this world. Because now when you get older and you don't have the desire as much for women and you probably have all the cars and the houses and the money, you realize that ultimately, what is it all worth at the end? All that stands is your iman and your what? And your righteous actions. So that's why you'll find from the praise of the word asaghir also means what? Also means the youth, meaning people who are truly young in age. So that's the meaning of asaghir. We know that the message of Allah said in the 20 hadith that min alamat as-sa'a yutlab al-ilm min al-asaghir. From the signs of the hour, that knowledge will be sought from the asaghir, from the asaghir. We said asaghir can mean people what? People of innovations. That's happening right now. That's what the message of Allah said is happening right now. That people seek knowledge from the people of who? Of innovations, the people of misguidance. Also, you'll find there are people who what? who are now seeking their knowledge from people who are ignorant. They might just see that he fasts all day and that he's a worshiper, but that doesn't mean that he's truly a person of knowledge. Just because he might have a long beard and you see him praying every night, it doesn't mean that. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? Sarah saying, everyone? And you'll find that people become bewildered with those individuals thinking that they have knowledge, which isn't the case. And also the third is that you'll find that they're seeking it from those who are what? Who are youth. You'll find that it's also true. And they're abandoning those who are seniors, who are well-grounded in knowledge, who have less care for the dunya. Is it clear, everyone? Yeah. So that's what he said. Notice that Shaykh al-Islam called them min ha'ula al-asaghir, in regards, in comparison to them. He said, rather these people who are the offspring of the philosophers and the followers of Hind and the followers of India and Greece and the worshipper and the inheritors of the Magians and the polytheists and those who are misguided from the Jews and the Christians and the Sabi'ah and anyone who's upon their way and anyone similar to them. How are they more knowledgeable of Allah and the inheritors of the prophets and the people who are the Quran and the people of true faith? That's where Shaykh al-Islam ends his introduction. So that's where we'll stop at, inshallah. So we just finished basically the what everyone? We finished the introduction. Any questions about the lesson? Tafadal, Abdul Ghani or Hajjaj?
That verse in Al-Imran, that was 7.
No, that's an Al Imran. Which
Those who
الراسخون في العلم يقولون آمنا به كل من عند ربنا وما يذكر إلا أولو الألباب. That's what Al Imran. That's ayah number 7. That could be 7. 7? It could be 7. That's the first page of Surah Al Imran. I don't think it's 7. Let me check. Can somebody look for me if they can find it?
Yeah.
I doubt if it's 7 though. I doubt it.
It's 7.
It's 7? You were right, Abdul Ghani. I think this one was more than that. It's 7. Ayah number 7. والراسخون في العلم يقولون آمنا به كل من عند ربنا وما يذكر إلا أولو الألباب. No. That's it. Any other question? تفضل عمر.
It says, Allah granted knowledge and wisdom, so and extended and stood over the rest of the followers of the Prophet. You said that was the Jews and the Christians, right?
Say it one more time, Umar.
It says, those whom Allah granted knowledge and wisdom to extended, they stood out over the rest of the followers of the Prophet, the followers of the prophets. You said that was the Christians and the Jews, right?
That's what we're speaking about.
Right.
The followers of the prophets or the Jews and the Christians.
Right.
That's what he's speaking about. Meaning from the previous nations. Yeah.
So meaning like even from like one of the easiest signs you could tell that somebody has some type of sickness in their heart.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as you just bring up something small about something very you
Oh,
see,
yeah, absolutely.
You just know, okay, there's something.
You'll find that that's something that's widespread amongst a lot of foreigners. A lot of foreigners everywhere all over the dunya. As soon as you mention Saudi Arabia, all those hypocrites.
I was just at the.
You're like, oh, here we go.
I was at the airport just a few days ago. Some Egyptian brother said, I hate Saudi Arabia.
You'll find that they have a very strong malice and hatred for Saudi Arabia. It's like all these countries out here that you could complain about and accuse them of hypocrisy to the end of it. Of one of the most corrupt lands. And they'll say the best things about it, like America. America, that's just a great land. You're like, but Saudi Arabia, oh, I hate those people, just hypocrites. They're just some filthy people. And you're just like, man, look how she wants to switched everything. They're supposed to probably say that about this land. This land deserves no subscription. Follow. How are you going to get a country now that's legalizing gay marriages and everything else, every type of other catastrophic affair that caused Allah's wrath to destroy every nation now is gathered here in this land, and now you're saying it's the greatest land in the dunya, right? Tafadhal.
How did the sect of the Jahmiyyah begin? When it started?
here? You don't think he was here? I doubt if he was here. That's a lesson for another day. Any other questions? Tafadhal.
Alright, so I just got a question for dealing with those who aren't so firm, like first on knowledge. You understand? And like even when it comes down to another Muslim, like how can I say, how do I would deal with someone who's just so questioning about things, you know what I mean? But they Muslim, you know what I'm saying? But it's just always not convinced about the truth.
The only way you can deal with them is to encourage them to come to class. Come to class and learn their religion. That's it. There's no other way you can convince them. Anything else? Stop here. وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.